Do you have a few minutes?
I gotta make some changes in my life. Do you even realize what your life means?
Morning Cup of Joe, a Missouri S&T podcast using pop culture to destigmatize mental health.
Fake laugh, hiding real pain.
Do not self-destruct.
I didn't ask for this to happen.
Join us in using everyday examples to explain usable techniques to help improve your mental well-being.
Stay a while and listen.
Welcome back, minors. My name is Amber Johnston. I'm a counselor here in Student Wellbeing.
And my name is Tracy Kriegel, and I'm also a counselor here in Student Wellbeing. And it's time for your Morning Cup of Joe.
So, Tracy, have you ever taken a long road trip?
Yes, we have. Last year we went out, long road trip up to Devil's Tower, over to Yellowstone, Grand Tetons, Colorado.
Where's
and
Devil's
back.
Tower?
It's in Wyoming.
Oh, awesome. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you went all on that road trip?
Yeah. So we did about 14 hours a day some days. So we were gone for about 11 days. It was a nice trip, though, because we got to saw a lot.
In a car.
Yeah, it was, but lots of hiking, lots of land that we saw. So it was fun. So, yeah. Nice trip. So I remember before Google Maps, it was really hard to imagine how we functioned because the entire time we used Google Maps everywhere we went. So, but nowadays we look up, the address and click the button, and a computerized voice just tells us how to get where we want. It's like the whole time was like we plugged in the address and we went here and we went there. And however, if you ever navigated with a paper map, you can attest to that was a challenge, which we used to do that.
Yeah.
Back in '95, when we went out to the Grand Canyon, paper map.
I've done it.
Yeah, and we totally had to try to figure out where we were going to choose to go to the best route and how we wanted to get there. So we went up to the Grand Canyon. AAA provided us the maps. They were the little flip maps.
Oh, yes, those were a pain to fold back up.
They were a pain. Well, actually, it was this little flipper one that was like on a ring spiral bound. So
that's handy.
Those were handy, but that was quite a challenge. It took us 14 days, I think, to do the whole route.
Wow.
Because we went down through Oklahoma, New Mexico, Arizona, went out to Las Vegas, up to the Grand Canyon, circled back around, did that. That was quite a long trip. That was back in '95 when we only had maps, didn't have the computerized Google Maps, which this last trip that we went on last year was by Google Maps and went out, up on the Northern Trail because we went all around South Dakota, Wyoming. Yeah, out in there and all those different states, which was wonderful. So
yeah, that sounds like it'd be a lot easier. Like I went on a trip with my mom when I was very small, and we didn't go nearly that far, but we drove down basically to Houston, and it's day and a half drive.
Yeah.
And I was the navigator because you obviously cannot use a folded map and drive a car simultaneously. So I was the navigator, and believe it or not, I was only like 10 years old. And so I got us on the wrong route because I thought I was on this road, and we weren't on this road. We were on this road that had a very similar name, and yes.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, those maps were hard to navigate.
They were. Yep.
So when we think about life, I want you to picture it something like a road trip with one of those paper maps.
Makes sense. We've used that analogy before when we're talking about choosing a life partner.
Yep, absolutely. And we're going to build on that even more this time. So life is a road trip, and along the way we have multiple destinations where we want to stop. These would be like our life goals. And some we're going to spend a little bit of time at, and some we'll spend a great deal of time at. Our first stop might be college. So when we get in the car and we navigate high school and choose our classes, we do that with that goal in mind. So that's similar to the way we choose a path or road to college.
Right, that totally makes sense. So, when we get to college, now our next destination might be to get to graduation. So we choose the classes, we go talk to our academic advisor and say, hey, I want to get in this class, I want to get in that class. And that path ultimately leads us to graduation.
Mm-hmm. Right. But in this case, the map isn't a picture of roads and notable topographical features like those old road maps were. It's a plan, and we call that a life plan. And it lays out how we can get to our goals step by step, and it lays out our destinations along the way. And just like I kind of got us lost, it might show us a few of those detours that we might take and might get lost in.
So kind of related to the ACT choice point, wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. In ACT, we have talked about, which we've talked about many times before, we talked about how we look at our long-term goal and if our actions or our current behavior is honoring or moving towards that goal, or if we're moving away from it. However, if we had a map that kind of gave us a layout of the path to that goal, it might make it a little clearer and easier to know if that we were headed that direction.
Right. So a map would make the directions a lot more simpler, and it would lead us in the direction of our goals.
Yes.
And if ACT is the compass, then the life plan would be the map that shows us the route to take.
Yeah.
Right.
So, like, with the ACT choice point, which we've talked about, like I said, talked about that before, that's like your north on your compass. The life map tells you how to get to the destination you're going instead of just the general direction. But it also shows us those roadblocks, those wrong ways. It shows us how to get back on the path if we get derailed off of the path. A map not only tells us where we're going, but it tells us where we are in terms of where we're going. So just like with a map, you can look at the little legend on the map and say, this is how far I am from my goal, and this is how much further I have to go. A life map does the same thing.
Sure. So in your analogy, choice point tells us if we're going in the right direction, but the life plan or map tells us directly how to get there. So if we're going to get there anyway, why do we even need a map? So why not just go towards our goals and that be good enough?
So let me tell you a story. One time I was driving in St. Louis and my phone was dead. So I was trying to get to the arch and I could see the arch, but it wasn't a straight path. And so I kept having to turn and keep going towards where I wanted to go without knowing the direct path to get there. I ended up driving in circles and I could see my goal, but I couldn't get to it. So I'm just basically driving in circles around the arch.
Got it. So I often see students that are stuck like what you're kind of describing, and they have an end goal in mind, but if something bad happens, like a bad grade or on a test or failing a class, they feel that goal is out of reach. Like they're just continuing to go in circles. So they feel like the problem they're facing now will be an obstacle forever.
And that's why a life map's so important. If we have a life plan, it's just like using the map we see. We can see the alternative. We can see different ways to get where we want to go. We can see that we're on the wrong path. We can see the road maps, the roads ahead of us. Let's say our partner breaks up with us and I really thought that person was the person I was meant to be with for the rest of my life.
Right. So using the map is the analogy to your next destination would be have to navigate to the new direction.
Using the map stops analogy, your next destination would be changed because you wouldn't be looking at marriage and partnership with that person anymore. You would have to navigate a new direction to get to your goal of marriage and kids. It's kind of like getting to a bridge and finding out they'd closed it, and it doesn't mean that I can't get to that goal of having marriage and kids and family. It just means that I can no longer go that way because I no longer have a relationship with that partner.
Gotcha. So just like a roadmap, taking different routes gives you new opportunities to see different things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so might have otherwise missed while still making progress towards our goal.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that partner wasn't the person you were meant to be with forever, but the next partner might be an even better relationship, or being single might put me in the right position to have different and new experiences that I might have otherwise missed. It doesn't mean that I'll never get to my goals. It just means that the path now looks different. And that's the power of the life map. It gives us the ability to reroute.
Sure. So, and this is a bit of resilience that we've always been talking about. We're pivoting and finding new paths to get where we're going, and I think that's important, is making sure we can make that paradigm shift.
Right, and that's the other power of maps, is it also tells us where we are in terms of our goals. It not only helps us find new directions to them, but it gives us that distance, that, like the legend that tells you how far you are away. The life map gives you an idea of how far am I from graduating? How far am I from getting married and having kids? How far am I from owning my own business? It's now, detours might affect that length. And if I've got to take a detour, now maybe I've got to take the long way, and maybe that time is longer. But I still have an adjustment. It still looks reachable. It still looks like I can get there. It just may take me a little bit longer.
And that sounds so inspiring. Just puts that direction, that puts you in that mindset of, I've got to keep looking this way.
Yeah, it keeps you moving forward. It's absolutely inspiring.
So how does someone create a life plan? Let's talk to that.
First, we want to start and picture our dream life in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And reality therapy calls this our ideal world. We can start by picturing like a day in our life as vividly as possible. Where do you work? Are you married? What does your house look like? Do you have children? How do you spend your time? What's your day like? And then we kind of go from there and figure out like what we want as far as what we want our life to look like.
Okay, so hold on. How I pictured my life when I was 20 is totally different than how I picture it now. So I've grown, my tastes have changed, my hobbies have changed. So let's talk to that.
Well, that's why it's important for this to not be a one and done kind of draw the map and then I'm done with it. You want to keep reevaluating to make sure the destination you're going to is where you want to go. So think about it, like going back to the maps and stuff. Direction. Let's say that I'm headed to Miami for a vacation, and 12 hours into the trip I decide I would rather go to Disney World. I can reroute my trip to Orlando at that point, and I've not a whole lot changes at that point. Our life goals are no different. Sometimes there's time and effort invested and I have to take it into account, but it doesn't mean I can't change my mind. If I really want to go to Orlando, I can still go, and I just have to adjust and pivot and reroute.
I love how you said that, because I know there are sometimes I hear people say this, that I can't change my declared major, I can't change the direction I'm going right now. And
why not?
Exactly. So I love how you just said that. It doesn't mean I can't change my mind. We can give ourselves permission to change our direction. And so when once you have that picture there of what you want to do with your life and what you want it to look like, I think that's so important. What do we do once you have that? What do we do next?
Well, next we take stock of where we are in relation to those goals. So if my goal is to, own a house and work at XYZ type of field, then I have to look at, where am I in relation to that? What are my finances? What are the relationships I have? If I want to get married, am I in a relationship? Do I need to look in a look to find one? Where does that fit? Do I want to look now? Do I want to wait 5 years? Where are all of these things happening? Look at our health. Are we growing as a person? Because we tend to downplay that piece, our personal growth and our paying attention to those things like emotional regulation and those kind of things. But those are important for our goals. We have to look at our own mental health, because if we don't take care of our mental health, that's going to be a big giant roadblock. And we then have to figure out what this looks like and where we are currently on the map and how to get to where we want. And some plans have you rate where you are in terms of numbers on a score of 1 to 5 with how satisfied you are with where you are currently. And then others, you can just kind of, write something or, give even like a little emoji.
Okay. So we created that picture. Now we've created a destinations, find out where we are currently. Then what?
Well, this is when we start looking for roads, and these are our short-term goals. So we look where we are and set goals in areas we want to change. So let's say I want to buy a house someday, but my credit score is terrible. So I'm gonna go and ask myself, what moves do I need to improve my credit score? Maybe to improve my score, I need a credit card, but I don't qualify for one. So a credit card would be my first destination in that particular area of my life, if that's what my goals are, and the roadblocks I'm facing. So then I would look at, what do I need to do to get that first credit card? And what ways do I need to access it? Do I need to start with a secured card? Do I need to have a parent's co-sign for me? What do I need to do to get that done? And then maybe once I kind of figure out that line of where I'm, how to get to that goal, that's one piece of that map moving forward.
Right. But if we're on a map and we're going one way towards buying a house and another way towards finding a partner, how does that compute? We have goals all over the place. They're just like, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that.
And some of them might be a little bit counter to each other, and that's where we comes in with the prioritization. So what's most important goal right now, and where do I want to be making the most progress? And to do that, we have to look at our core values, what's more important for us, and when we want to have these goals completed, and ask if our actions are in line with those core values.
Gotcha. So if I have conflicting goals of marriage and career, if I don't spend enough time supporting my relationship and focusing too much on my career, or vice versa, the other part of my life might suffer, and I might be moving away from my long-term goals in at least one or more of those areas.
Right.
So I have to try to find balance somewhere there, because otherwise I'm going to be going away from one of them.
Exactly. And that's where it gets a little bit tricky, trying to balance our different goals against each other, and make sure, we've talked about like identity circles and things like that. We're three-dimensional people. We have more than one piece in our life.
Right.
And so we have to balance all those pieces together and then try to find a way that still moves us towards that eventual goal. Because that eventual goal isn't just one thing. It's made up of a multitude of things.
Right. So this is where our SMART goals come in.
Absolutely.
Right. So when we set short-term goals, we have to look at our goals and make them very small and specific so that we know whether we've achieved them or not. We talked about this in our Leveling Up podcast, but just to review, the S stands for specific, where each goal should be specific. For example, rather than lose weight, our goal should say lose 10 pounds. So that's a specific goal of what we want to do for losing weight. The M stands for measurable. Establish how you will measure your goals. So in the case of losing weight, if we want to lose 10 pounds, how can we measure that? So are we going to get on the scale each day and we're going to measure that? How are we going to measure that? And then the A stands for attainable. Make sure your goals are realistic and possible to achieve. Can I realistically set the goal to lose 10 pounds right now? Like, am I really, if life is really stressed and I'm going through some mental health concerns, is this going to be attainable right now? And will I feel worse about myself because I've set myself up for failure? So being realistic with yourself, is this a reachable goal at this time? So asking yourself, is this attainable? And then R stands for relevant. The goal should be relevant to your long-term vision and compatible with your priorities and values. If my goal is to improve my health, losing the 10 pounds would be within the goal if you're overweight. If I'm underweight, that might be, it wouldn't be healthy for you to do that. So it's not in line with your long-term goals. So you really have to make sure that if you set this goal, it's going to be healthy for you and it's in line with your long-term goals. And the T stands for time-bound. Set an ambitious but achievable deadline for the completion of your goal. 10 pounds in 2 days is completely unrealistic. But I can set the goal for 2 months and do that pretty safely. So they say on average that if you lose 2 pounds a week, that's an achievable goal. So don't set yourself up for failure if you're going to set this as your particular goal.
Mm-hmm. And as you complete each SMART goal, I want you to look at it as progress towards your destination and getting closer to your ideal world or your long-term goals. And when we do the life map, you can actually, for a lot of people, almost move things towards, so it's kind of like you're inching towards that goal visually as you move towards it through your goal
Right.
achievement.
Exactly. I get in the car every day. And, with the construction that's between here and my house, every day I get in my car and I get in, I put my map on. But one of the most rewarding things about that map is it tells me how long it's going to take me to get there and the estimated time of my arrival. And when I get there, what's one of the most rewarding things about it is it's pretty accurate that it's going to take me from 7:36 in the morning and I arrive at 8 o'clock on campus. And I have achieved my goal every morning when I get here to campus.
Even with the construction.
Even with the construction. But that's exactly like the goal.
Mm-hmm.
Is if you set your SMART goal, it's attainable.
Mm-hmm.
It's realistic. It's time sensitive. And so I feel like that's just like the Google Maps. It's totally time sensitive. It's realistic. It tells you where you're going. It's pretty accurate. It guides you away from the potholes of the construction. It'll tell you to go around it if there's you need to take a detour. But that is we need to be cognizant in life of how we can plan in life.
Well, and I want you to think also something. I don't know if I'm the only one who looks at road trips this way, but when you look at road trips, do you not look at them by the next city on your trip?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like you're driving and you're like, oh, it's 50 miles to next city, insert city here. Mm-hmm. And you're going to stop and get drinks and use the restroom and eat and sometimes even spend the night.
Yeah.
Think about how that's similar to the goal setting. Like you're worried, like what's the next goal?
Mm-hmm.
Am I 50 miles from, graduation? Am I, where am I?
Yep. I use my maps to plan my vacations.
Do you?
I do, and I think that that's kind of like how we look at our goals. If we look far enough out into our life plan, it helps us to establish our goals. But I use my maps to plan my vacations. I'll go from city to city, from spot to spot, and I zoom in close enough to see where all the restaurants are, where all the hotels are, and I look at how I'm going to plan my vacation from space to space. But maps are wonderful enough to, because if you go on to like Expedia or Priceline, they don't show you a lot of the places on the map of where the motels are more cost efficient. And so you can go on the maps and it'll show you what the cost of all the motels are. It's the greatest way to plan vacations. So that's my little technique if you want to use that to plan your vacations too, but it's part of setting relative goals. Is using the tools and techniques that you have that are at your hands to be successful.
When you find the best little shops and restaurants and tourist attractions and things that way, because then you're not looking at what's being promoted.
Yes.
You're looking at
Yeah.
the cool stuff that nobody
The mom
realizes
and pop
there.
shops.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but I love going into like a random mom and pop shop and just seeing what's in there, what kind of cool stuff I can find.
Yes. And that's the fun, adventurous part of life. When you set your goals, have fun along the way.
Yeah.
Take a detour, go off the beaten path, go for a hike, go for a walk, insert the fun things in life.
Yeah.
We should have fun in life. If you have those goals in life that you're going to retire at the age of 55, don't wait till retirement to have fun. Do it now, because you're only going to live once.
Right.
You know?
Tomorrow's not promised.
Tomorrow's not promised, that's right. And so, if you're waiting till retirement to travel the world, start traveling now.
I talk to students about that all the time. I'm like, okay, so you're telling me in your life, your ideal world, you want to be somebody who travels a lot. I'm like, well, what can you do this week? Like, let's set a SMART goal, because that not an eventual goal that somebody might have?
Yeah,
like, I want to be
exactly.
more spontaneous. I
Yes.
want to be the kind of person that's adventurous. Okay,
Yes.
well then let's set a SMART goal to be adventurous and spontaneous right now. So we'll start looking. Okay, well, what are some places? Maybe I can't do a week-long or a 14-day long trip around the U.S. Okay, are there enough places around here where you can do day trips and go see some cool things?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Like, there are so many, like, neat little things to go visit and go do.
Yeah.
Go zip lining
Yes.
if you want to do that. Go.
Yeah, one of our coworkers asked the other day, a budget-friendly, off the beaten path place to visit, and it's called it's the Frederick Hotel in Boonville, and they have bikes that you can use that's at the hotel, and you can ride the Katy Trail, and
Oh, how
it is
cool.
the cutest little. It's an old historic hotel. And it's a really neat little town. It's all a historic little town, but it's fun. They have a restaurant there in the hotel. There's places like that all over the state of Missouri. You know, you can go to Herman. They have all kinds of beds and breakfasts. You can tour the winery. But there are just all kinds of neat, phenomenal places all over the state that you can go. Cost-efficient places, you know, that
A
you
lot
can.
of them are free.
A lot of places you can go and tour, but just
Haha Tonka.
Tonka State Park. You can download the All Trails app, and you can even use the free version and just go hiking. You can go to Elephant Rocks. You can go to Johnson Shut-ins. Wow, there are so many things in the state you can do that are just neat places that you can go. The St. Louis Zoo is fun. I love going there.
Butterfly House.
Yeah, the Butterfly House.
Tower Grove Park.
Yeah.
Like, Tower Grove Park is really cool because they've got all the different pavilions from different countries and stuff, and it's totally free. Like, you can go
Yeah.
in there and see all the pretty sights and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff here in the state that you can go and do, just unique individual things. And during the holidays, there's always all kinds of things. You know, you can go down to St. Peter's. Down there, they have the Christmas time on the walk down there. They have all the older styled, this really neat time of the year that you can go down. Branson, of course, during that time of the year, it's a really neat time that you can go down. But the Balloon Fest during the fall of the year, that's in Forest Park. Lots of neat stuff to do. So
There's always something going on pretty much every weekend of the year. You can find something happening somewhere.
oh, the Renaissance Festival. Have you ever been to the Renaissance Festival?
Oh, of course.
in
I
St.
talk about it
Louis?
all the time.
Oh, I love that.
I
Yes.
go to the one in Kansas City.
We go to the one in St. Louis. So fun. Yes. Usually I can get free tickets to that one.
Well, there's one in Kansas City, there's one in St. Louis, and then there's one in, there's a little tiny one in Jeff City.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So set your life plan goals. Get out there. Be adventurous. Have fun. Live
that's-
life to its fullest. That's what this podcast is all about. Sorry, we get off track sometimes.
Yes. But if that's who the person you want to be,
Yes.
then be that person.
Absolutely. And if you ever want to come visit with Amber and I, we're over in Student Wellbeing. We're in Norwood Hall. Feel free to come over. We do Let's Talk sessions around campus during the week as counselors are walking around. If you want to just sit and just chat with us for fun, we are around campus, walking around, sometimes just sitting around chatting with people. So if you want to just chat with us in a non-therapeutic setting, we do Let's Talk around campus too. But we do provide individual and group counseling. So please come see us if you need to talk to us in a therapeutic setting. But we do Let's Talk during the week as well.
Yeah.
So if you want to check us out, so we do that.
We're
as
a
well.
little chatty.
All right.
We like to talk.
We do like to talk. All right, miners, have a great week. Thanks for joining us.
Have a great day.
Take care. If you like this podcast, please remember to like and subscribe. To schedule an appointment or to reach out to us about future topics you would like to see, please email us at wellbeing@mst.edu. You can also reach us by phone at 573-341-4211. We are located at 204 Norwood Hall.
I accept the challenge.
there and do your best.
Hey, go easy on yourself. Come on now.
Now you're talking!
For more mental health and well-being content, please follow us on Facebook at Missouri S&T Wellbeing and on Instagram at S&T Wellbeing.
But most importantly,
never give up.